Good day, everybody. This is Yin Yang in California, and we are with Morsels of a Thought number 1668A. As far as I'm concerned, it's a very, very good luck Chinese number. Anyway, this is The Dirt Merchants by Henning Morales, a Highwayman edition of a true story, a triumph, a coming of age novel. Da-dum, da-dum. We're on chapter 27. We are doing morsels of a thought, hopefully thoughts of wisdom. And wisdom is a form of wisdom is knowing what to do, the right thing to do. And then doing it is called virtue. My goal is to bring to the world as much virtue as possible, and knowing the right things to do often goes right with it. And knowing the right things to do goes right with it. And we also want to know pitfalls. So we've learned quite a bit from Henning Morales so far, quite a bit. And the last we saw, he and a young lady are having a bona fide love affair. Okay, chapter 27, Slim Pickens, Pickens. Tuesday, September 4th, day after Labor Day. For almost a month now, Tara was making the trek from Paramus to Teaneck to pick up Spencer, to pick Spencer up as the racing Jeep remained parked in the street in front of his house. The couple got along famously. She could do no wrong. He could do no wrong. Their sets of friends became intertwined, and they were definitely exclusive. They met each other's families and spent all off hours at each other's houses, at the movies, or clubbing at Danceteria or Club Starbucks in the city. There seemed to be a direct connection between the rapid development of their relationship and the swift decline of American wholesalers. It happened so fast that there were question marks everywhere as to exactly how the unraveling was happening. Because it happened so fast, it was difficult to track the process. At the beginning of the summer, there were 13 offices in the company. By Labor Day, the 13 offices had been reduced to 3. 39 sales guys at the Lodi office were reduced to 11 guys. Only Jim's office, Joe Graciano's, and the Long Island office were in place. Cuddy and Spencer stopped coming in for office training. The pit meetings, bonuses, and card games vanished. Just prior to Spencer and Tara getting together, Spencer and Jim had spent every weekend together and had made monthly trips to Atlantic City and Puerto Rico. Since then, they hadn't gone out together and rarely saw each other at the office. When they did see each other, it was to make grand, overly exaggerated plans for the future, or for Jim to snap at Spencer for trying to talk sense into him. Warehouse inventory is way down, Jim. When's the next truck come from the city coming in? That's my job, Spencer. What are you sticking your nose in there for? Jim replied. His suit jacket was off and his tie was undone. Because at this rate, we're not going to be ready for this week's all-nighters. But whatever, Jim, I'll let you handle it. I couldn't get Brian or Lee on the phone all weekend. They were supposed to be back from the shore early this weekend to help out in the warehouse and never showed yesterday. All the guys are saying they blew out and went independent. That brings us down to 9 guys, and we have no ads in. I haven't seen Rose yet. Is she even coming in? Man, you're worse than my nagging girlfriend. You want to be my girlfriend, Corrales? Then maybe I'll let you nag some more. He laughed vigorously and lit up a Newport. Spencer worked up a smile. I wouldn't bring it all t- I wouldn't bring it to you all at once, but I hardly see you. Jim, this is really serious. What is going on with you? You're Jim Braun. You're a legend. At 23, you had made your first million. You had this company up to 600 people. I don't really care what happened. What do we need to do to get this back on track? I have no idea what to do about it. That's just it. Stay out of it. I'll handle it. Now Jim was serious and angry. There's the food truck. Can you handle getting me a cup of coffee? Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Ooh. Stunned, Spencer made his way out to the food truck. The office was almost empty and had no energy. The few guys that were there were arguing over the best merch in the warehouse, and there was no manager to break it up. Teddy, Frankie, Cuddy, Spencer, Rocco, Bernice, Clay, and one of Kenny's leftovers were all that were left in the Lodi office. And from what Spencer could tell, if that truck didn't get to Lodi or Long Island with their merchandise deliveries by the end of the day, they very well could be the only ones left in the entire company. Spencer went back into Jim's office, handed him the coffee, and turned to walk out slowly. Wait, shouted Jim. Meet me at my house tomorrow at 8 and bring the Jeep. Jeepster, chapter 28. Spencer got home that night, and Tara called, as she always did, at 8:30 sharp. She was crying. Tara said, I just left the staff meeting at Kenny's house. I thought we were going to talk about the new office, but we all got laid off with no warning. Kenny says that Jim's not doing anything to save the company, Tara said, trying to hold back the tears. He says that none of the satellite offices got their deliveries and they had to close because they had nothing to sell, and Jim never returned their calls. Kenny says Jim's a low-life degenerate, too scared to face his problems. Whoa, hold on a second. That's Kenny's version of the story. You don't know that for a fact. Typical, you're sticking up for Jim, like you always do. Whenever Tara began to talk negatively about what was happening at Kenny's office, Spencer always stopped her, saying he didn't want to talk about business with her. Then he would change the subject. She'd left it alone. Now she was getting angry. He hadn't seen her angry. It was ugly. Her temper showed up, finally. Why don't you stop being Jim's little twist and face reality for once? Listen to me. Please try and calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Look, I know things are messed up now. I'm coming over. I'm leaving now. No, I don't want you here. I'm coming over, like it or not. It was the first time he'd raised his voice to her. His temper was showing now, the temper that he'd left behind 15 months earlier when he first showed up on Garibaldi Avenue at the doorstep of American wholesalers. He felt sick inside. She was shocked. Why are you yelling at me? She asked calmly. Spencer had already hung up. Um, Morsels of a thought. And we are talking about Tara is the girlfriend. Okay. He threw the deafening monster truck into first gear and skidded off to Paramus, finally accepting the fact that his world was caving in. His life was based on the words and actions of his mentor, his teacher, his boss. Things had been so solid, so predictable. Despite all he'd learned and how much he'd grown, he couldn't perceive or deduce what was going on. His first real relationship was being tested as well. Jim can get us Jim can get us out of this mess. And that's what he's thinking. He knocked on the front door and Tara's mom answered. She was a warm, attractive Italian American around 45. Hello, Spencer. I don't think she wants to see you. It'll be fine, Mrs. Bertucci, Spencer said, flashing a huge smile. She'll be fine. Let me talk to her. Can I go up? She smiled back and opened the door. Her father, Artie, sitting in his lazy boy, looked up from his paper and nodded. Spencer waved and raced upstairs and knocked on the door. He opened it a crack. He spoke softly. I know that things are messed up at the company now, but Jim can get out of it. He's a miracle worker. I've known him for a long time. Kenny and him, they'll work it out. You'll find another job. You're smart and smoking hot and have all those business suits. He smiled. She smiled and let him into her room. He sat on her twin bed. He always felt uncomfortable in girls' rooms. All that pink and lace and the heartthrob posters, plus the threat of parents barging in, made him more nervous than pitching 10 strangers in the South Bronx. You know, the night we first went out, I sat up the whole night. It was all planned out, making sure to bust Kenny's chops in front of you to show I could hang with his level even though I was still in the field, making sure it was Tuesday so you would see me in a suit, asking for a lift even though I have access to like 10 different cars, picking Brandon up to show you how cool I was that I had friends from the other side of the tracks, making you drive through Washington Heights to show you how tough I was, then dinner at our Eduardo's, my own turf. It was all planned out to impress you, to make me stand out. I never did that to anyone else. I love you, baby. He hugged her tightly and she caved in. I knew, she said, I knew what you were doing. Not only didn't I care, I liked it. The fact that you went out of your way like that to impress me and it didn't even look like you were trying. I was impressed that you went to all that trouble. It made me feel like the only girl in the world. That's why I fell for you so fast. I'm going to see Jim in the morning and see what's going on. Try not to worry. They talked and laughed for another hour, then had dinner with her family. At midnight, Spencer said his goodbyes, then pushed the monster Jeep to a rolling start and jumped in. He waited until he was out of earshot and started her up. It roared into first gear, rattling the neighbor's fine china as he quickly turned onto Fairview Avenue, then Century Road, then onto Route 17, to Route 4, to River Road in Teaneck. Spencer pulls the monster truck up Rutland Avenue, took a left on Jefferson, another left on Maitland, turned off the engine to cruise down the hill silently, and coasted to a stop in front of his house. Let the neighbors on Rutland Avenue deal with the roar of this beast. That's what he's thinking. Chapter 29, Paradise Garage. At 6 a.m., Spencer showered, dressed, ate 3 eggs and 5 slices of bacon, 3 pieces of pumpernickel toast with gobs of butter and coffee, and ran out of the house. When he pulled up to Jim's, Teddy, Frankie, and Clay were already there. They were standing in front of Jim's garage, and the merchandise from the Lodi office was packed tightly into the garage. Frankie was doling out the merch. Jim saw Spencer pull up and signaled him to pull the Jeep into the guest parking lot. Spencer got out and raised his hands, palms up. Well, I guess you figured it out by now. We had to move out of the office. Graziano is still in his, but I don't know for how long I couldn't get the shipments off to any of the offices. My guys in New York and me, we had disagreements over some containers that I ordered. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure they were not coming. This caused me to float money and product to some of the offices with weaker production, and I ran out of cash. Jim, with all the sales we had going on at Lodi, how could we run out? The astonishment on Spencer's face disguised his disappointment. The other guys looked over uncomfortably from the garage. Just did, man. Don't worry though. We got a new wholesaler on 30th Street that will work a deal with us. In the meantime, I got some good news for you. You and me, we're going to be in the field together. Teddy is going to work with Frankie, and here's the rest of the lineup. Jim handed a legal pad to Spencer. We always talked about us working in the field together and how cool it would be, Spence. Well, let's take this time and do it. It'll be fun, man. The merch is all half off, so basically we can double our money. Spencer looked at him with a blank stare and a stale smile, wondering when the gag was going to be up. Reality hit all at once. Hey, man, you look like you lost your little poodle, man. Snap out of it. It'll be good, man. You and me, Corrales. We're like cats. We always land on our feet. Come on, let's load up. Jim Braun was more than a mentor for Spencer. He was a legend. Spencer would come across other company sales guys every so often who knew Jim, and they told stories about him and how good he was that made him sound nearly superhuman. He had started at 19 with nothing, worked the field for 2 years, and started American Wholesalers from his garage with 5 guys. Spencer and Jim had talked about working in the field together and what it would be like. They even talked about riding together for a day for fun, but not like this. Jim was trying to make it sound like they were doing it for fun, and Spencer wanted to believe it. Yeah, Jim, let's get fired up. What a blast. It's going to be you and me in the field. You may be a bit rusty, but I'll carry you till you get the hang of it. Jim, this is going to be fun and all, but want you to know that I believe in you and that I know you can rebuild this company. I never go independent. I'll never go independent. I would never join one of those other deals. I know, hitter. Let's go. Van's loaded up. The two legends went to the Whitestone area just over the Whitestone Bridge in Queens and went to work. Spencer had never seen anything like it. First of all, he noticed that Jim was human, that he would get rejected in the same way that anyone else would get rejected, but at the same time, he worked faster than anyone he'd ever seen, and with more confidence than anyone he'd ever seen. Spencer knew he was good. He'd seen some of the best in the company work, and he believed Jim was the best he'd seen or worked with, but this was different. Once Jim got a customer's attention, he worked that customer with such confidence that 3 or 4 piece drops seemed to happen with every fourth or fifth prospect. He pitched every guy he could find and used the old school, can you use a good bargain? And it worked. Not since he was a rookie during his first couple of months had Spencer needed to keep pace with someone. It was Spencer that was the pace setter with everyone he worked with, including Timmy, Teddy, Clay, and Lee. Even when Spencer had gone out with major hitters like Cuddy, Gino, Donovan, Monte, and Blazeman, seasoned vets at the top of their careers, Spence would always be the fastest, most focused, and hardest working one out there until now. And this was a guy who hadn't been in the field for 3 years, selling product he wasn't even familiar with. His attitude, focus, and belief were selling, not the knowledge of the product. Not only was Jim the best, he walked his talk, experiencing the work of art that was Jim Braun in the fields completely hypnotized Spencer. Thoughts of the crumbling of the company were totally blocked out. The two formed an unstoppable team in the field. They each pocketed 350 that day and decided to work together every day. There's a $50 bill. After working together about a week, Spencer noticed a pattern in Jim. While they were in the field, Jim was focused and carefree. On the way to the territory, on the way home, he was moody and snapped often. Spencer wrote it off to Jim's being frustrated that he lost the company, the fact that the deal with the new importer was stalled, and that winter was around the corner, the worst months to be recruiting and trying to build a company. The hours were sporadic. Sometimes they would start at 10, sometimes at 11, sometimes at 9. Some Spencer would show up at Jim's place and wait around until he was ready. After the second week, he was hardly talking to or seeing the other guys. It was just the two of them. The warehouse inventory was obviously withering down, and Jim stopped talking about reopening the deal. Anytime Spencer would bring it up, Jim snapped at him. He stopped bringing it up and hoped things would somehow get better. They didn't. Tara had gotten a job at an architecture firm, and their relationship had settled down, but every time the name Jim Braun was mentioned, they argued. Slowly, Spencer was losing his confidence in himself and his swagger. It wasn't fun anymore. Although they were making money, there were no card games, no flirting with the secretaries, no trips to Atlantic City, AC, no partying together, no speeches to the rooks, no more office training, no more bets, no more busting chops, no more competition, no more fun. After not being able to get a hold of Jim over the weekend, Spencer decided just to head over early on Monday. Pulling up to Jim's garage, he noticed that Jim's boat wasn't in its usual spot, and neither was the Jag. He knocked on both doors as usual. No answer. He sat down on the stoop, looking at his watch, fidgeting. The days were getting shorter, and he wanted to get going earlier. They only worked a 4 or 5 hour day, so they could start at noon, but that was the latest. After a few short minutes, he stood up abruptly and banged on the door again. Jim finally dragged out, and they jumped in the van without saying a word. They got to their territory with Jim complaining the whole time about Spencer's driving, or that he wasn't strong enough the previous week, or that he'd gotten there late. Spencer shrugged it off, as he always did, but the verbal abuse was worse than usual. After 2 hours, they had made about 100 each, and Jim wanted to head back, said he had an appointment or something. They pulled back into the Glen Point condo complex, parked and walked toward Jim's front door. They went through the usual ritual of settling up. No, man, you still owe me $50 more, Jim barked. What are you talking about, man? It's 107 each and 200 back to you for the merch we sold today, Spencer answered. No, man, you put the entries in wrong. I'm $50 short. Jim, what are you talking about? Here it is, black and white. Even if you don't remember, I do. I wrote it down as I always do. Same system we've been using. No, man, I'm still $50 short. Jim was looking at Spencer right in the eye with a seriousness which had never been there between the two. Spencer started getting those old feelings that came with arguing with his parents, having it out with his teachers, and just plain being an angry punk during his years at Teaneck High. A few seconds passed. Jim reached out his hand. I need that 50. You're kidding, right? I'm the most loyal guy you ever had working for you. Out of 600 guys, it's just me left. You've been riding me hard for no good reason ever since the company started falling apart. I cut you slack because I thought you would snap out of it and get this business back on track. And now this? I've had the keys to your house, your car, the warehouse, and the combination to your safe behind the board at Lodi and the one in the den in your house. I would never take a dime from you. And now this? I had my girlfriend and all the other guys telling me you went off the deep end and that I should walk away. And I didn't. I left high school, missed out on college, 'cause I believed you when you told me I could run my own deal if I followed the plan. I agreed to wait and to rebuild this company with you. And now this. Spencer took out the wad of cash from his Levi's, pulled out a $50 bill, crumbled it up, and threw it at Jim's chest along with the keys to the van. You want the $50. I don't need the 50. Take it. Jim picked up the money and keys. As he turned toward his front door, a single tear ran down his face. Spencer made his way up to Teaneck Road and walked north to a payphone. Tara, it's me, babe. Can you take the afternoon off and come get me? It's over. Chapter 31, Seeds of Greatness. Thursday, November 15th. So we will have a couple more times. We'll read this. Oh, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. We will read this 2 more times, and then we will go to our next book. After that, Seeds of Greatness, Thursday, November 15th. We will find out what happens next Sunday in The Dirt Merchants, a novel, a coming of age adventure, a triumph, a true story. This is the Highwayman edition by Henning Morales. Hey, hey. Okay, so today is Sunday. I'm going to see you tomorrow. I always end with the OK category of old Kinderhook abbreviations. That's the only thing we have to do. Explain that right now. Martin Van Buren was the 8th president of the United States, and he was from Kinderhook. And I want to say Pennsylvania. I didn't look it up. I'm sorry. And and he always wanted to see things to their virtuous end. So we are bringing virtuous thoughts, morsels of a thought to you every day. And today was the 1668th day. Okay, old Kinderhook.